Welcome to the Blokebusters podcast. Today is Sunday, the 20th of January. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
And today we will be discussing the extensive works of one Mr. Tim Burton, a director that I'm sure everyone listening to this is familiar.
Familiar and probably fond of, I would think. Especially if you've downloaded this knowing it's about Tim Burton.
And don't worry, this isn't going to turn into a 3-hour discussion on Tim Burton, mainly because we probably don't have 3 hours of material on Tim Burton.
2.5 at tops, yeah, probably.
Yeah, we'll probably be skipping over a few of the films briefly, either because one or both of us haven't seen it, or we haven't seen it recently enough to really go into
or it'll be a hated it, type thing, or loved it, move on.
Alright, well, if we were to start, should we go in chronological order?
I suppose that makes as much sense as anything.
Yeah, rather than just go alphabetically.
Random. We don't have a wheel to spin, unfortunately, so I guess we have to use logic.
Yeah, well, at least you won't be subjected to the noise every time.
That would have been fun.
Alright. Well, to start with, just brushing on his first film where he was a major part was actually The Fox and the Hound. He was just an animator on that. So we don't have too much to say on that one.
No.
Other than it was well animated.
Very much. I appreciated your drawings,
yes,
sir.
Well done.
In motion, your drawings in motion.
And then moving on from that, he got his first big thing doing Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Now, growing up in England, we didn't have the Pee-wee's Playhouse or whatever Is it Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Yes, it is. You got it. Yeah, Pee-wee's Playhouse.
So, I then, of course, never saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't even know if it got released in the UK because of that.
I couldn't tell you, yeah. But, yeah, that was 1985. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I guess, based on what I've heard, it's very well liked, especially by people that like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Mm-hmm. It is very critically acclaimed, I think. Probably everyone was surprised that he did so well with his first directorial piece. And it's actually, I was looking this up, it's got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that makes it his joint second best rated film on that site, which goes to show that maybe I should just watch it just because apparently
it's enjoyable. I obviously haven't seen it since I was very, very young and was interested in those things because that TV show was a staple of my childhood. Yeah. And, I love Cherry and Cowboy Curtis and Penny and, the word of the day, the word of the day is ridiculous. You're missing out, Paul. Don't be ridiculous. That's great. Sorry. Feel you know what I'm talking about, I hope. I'm not just making a fool out of myself for no reason. But yeah, it was an enjoyable film. And looking back, if you watch it now, we'll get into this more later, but looks like a Burton movie. Right. And You'll know what I mean. We'll delve into that a little further later on. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about that, to quote Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's probably it. Everything I can say on it as well.
That's worth checking out.
Yeah. Well, following up from that, and don't worry, they're not all going to be that quick as well.
Rapid fire round.
We have the film Beetlejuice.
Which you were kind enough to do a mini cast on.
Yes, might not have been my best work, but
no. I will get one out someday so we can critique mine a little more.
But yeah, this one is one of my favorite Tim Burton films, and Michael Keaton, fantastic in it as well.
Yeah.
And again, fairly well received critically.
Yeah.
Might not have had the best box office return, but then again, for that time, I guess a slightly lesser known director.
Yeah, I mean, he had only done Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but I love it. It's his first work with Winona Ryder, and led into the next one, which will be coming up in a couple films. I think.
Got one more to go before that one.
Yeah. Oh, a little superhero movie, I think, in there somewhere. But did we want to go any more on Beetlejuice, sir?
Well, I don't have too much more to say that I didn't already touch on. Obviously, set design. Once again, you can tell it's a Tim Burton film.
Yep. Excellent Michael Keaton. Sandworms, scary as shit. Just to rehash what I'd covered on our podcast when I talked about it.
Yeah, and it's got a couple of the actors that you'll see popping up again. Yeah,
and the Banana Boat song. That's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nothing wrong with that scene.
Alright, well, the next one would be Batman, where he brought...
Who's that now?
I don't know.
I'm unfamiliar with this character.
Yeah. Played by a young upstart called Michael Keaton, I believe.
Oh.
I don't know where I've heard that name before.
Played by Beetlegeist?
Beetlegeist, that's the one.
Okay.
This one I haven't seen too recently, but definitely...
It's been early 90s probably since I've seen this.
Yeah, I think most people would say it's the second best of that Batman
of the imaginings. Yeah, I mean, if you're going for a straightforward telling, because the Adam West was campy, the TV show, and then the movie, which I forget the year on the movie, but they did make a movie with Adam West,
right?
And that was camp, and the pow and the zings and the.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I think I've only seen the odd clip here.
Still one of my favorite Batmobiles, I will say, in that one. That was like a Ford Futura or something. I don't know. It was a concept car that they turned into that Batmobile, but it's a pretty cool looking Batmobile.
The bubble.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. Yeah. Better than that abomination that was in Batman Forever or whatever with like the gills or, I don't know. And the thing was like 40 foot long and yeah. On to this Batman. Yeah. I did enjoy this one. At the time, not knowing who the hell Christopher Nolan was or would be, thought, oh, this is incredible, and just...
Yeah. No one could ever do a better Batman than this.
And I was pretty young when I saw that. I would probably say it. I'm sure it was on TV by the first time I saw it because I was 7 at that time and not going to the theater.
Yeah, I would imagine for me, I doubt my parents would have taken me there to go see it.
I remember like there were parts that were a little scary for my childhood eyes and very edgy, I guess you could say. Well, now looking back, knowing. I know we're not trying to apples and oranges, but it was well done. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and once again, another one where it's fairly dark, and this one less so, I would say, than Beetlejuice, obviously, but you can say it's probably a Tim Burton film.
Yeah,
and as we said, Michael Keaton returning, and another thing where you start to see him using the same actor. Again, which as we get further along, you'll probably see the same name popping up again.
Oh,
and
again. I don't know. He does find one guy he's particularly fond of.
Yeah, it might be coming out soon, actually. But yeah, the only other real interesting piece of trivia I can think of is probably not that interesting. This one would be the third most commercially successful film he's ever done in terms of full box office figures, which, given some of the other films coming up, I was actually surprised by, because some of the films that you would think, that's such a classic Tim Burton film, weren't necessarily his...
It's always interesting what is successful immediately and then what will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Because there are many great movies that fall through the cracks. There's like the story of Shawshank, which was just pretty much a flop, and that's on TV every day for about 6 times.
Yeah, that one being my favorite film of all time. I still can't explain why, it just is. It's one of those things.
Yeah, but
Well,
so there's Batman. Yeah.
He told you it wouldn't be too long. Alright, now to our first major stop in the line. Edward Scissorhands. A 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, making it
a travesty, I tell you.
Out of everything I've got here, that would be either number 3 or number 4, because there's 2 number 2s, so depending on how you want it.
Who do you work for?
Depending on how you want to do it. Excellent Austin Powers reference.
I have 1 or 2 ready to go at all times. But yeah, this is definitely, I would say, it's my favorite Tim Burton film. I'm not even going to pretend. There are others that I have about 6 that are in second place, 5 or 6 that kind of alternate slots in second place. But Edward Scissorhands just does it for me. I don't know, it's everything I want it to be. I just rewatched it a couple days ago, and
stands up to you.
Just as wonderful and as moving as I remember seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
I'll go into it more, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, and this is the first film that he directed, wrote, and produced. Yeah. So, the trifecta there. He'd only ever done that on... Let me look at my notes quick. He's only actually done that on 1 other film. In this list, most of them he's just a director and writer. but this is the one where he did all three.
I want to hazard a guess, but I will wait on that.
Alright, well, yeah, this film, I have seen it less recently than you, but based on everything I remember, I think the second time I saw it, I enjoyed it more than the first time. I think the first time I saw it, I was too young to get everything that was in it. And fantastic looking town that he created.
The suburbia?
Yeah, I love the juxtaposition as well of you've got the suburbia, everything is rows of plain houses are all pretty much the same color. They use one of four like really garish pastel colors. Yeah, and that's kind of just to like unify the neighborhood. Yeah, everyone is very sort of insular. All of the housewives talk to each other and gossip, and all the guys just go off to work and come back. And then
all pull out of the driveway at the same time, all go in a line to work. Yeah.
Sort of Pleasantville.
Yeah, really much. Yeah, that's a good pull there. Yeah.
And then you get the house that the inventor and Silverhands is in, and
of course, because all suburban neighborhoods are located right by a mountain with a mansion at top. That's literally like 200 yards away.
Yeah, the sort of thing that the neighborhood would have got together and signed a petition to get rid of that.
Oh yeah, they would have had it knocked down, bulldozed.
I'm guessing the inventor.
They would have had outlet malls put in.
The inventor must have been smart enough to get it as a heritage site.
He must have owned the land and would not sell.
Yeah. Oh, it's been
but the inventor, it's good for bringing him up because that was Vincent Price.
Last role, I think.
His last screen appearance, and who, like Tim Burton, had a very fondness for a love affair with. I mean, even did, I believe, a short film. Yeah, on Vincent Price, and he's awesome as the inventor.
Yeah,
go back and look at some of Vincent Price's horror works. I mean, he's the master.
Yeah, it's another one of those actors where you hear the voice and you know it's him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's some people that all they are is the voice, but he's got the voice, so you know it's him, and he's a very good actor as well. And I think I might be remembering this wrong, but there is a take in it, or at least a shot, where the inventor has either collapsed or he's not feeling well or something like that, and Vincent Price actually did that on the set. It wasn't part of the thing. And then Tim Burton, I think, asked for his permission to use it because it was just, it felt right for the
Remember when you almost died? You might as well profit from that.
Yeah, sure.
No, it's when he's, I believe, showing Edward the present of his hands, what are going to be his hands, and he's like, he just, sorry podcast, but goes kind of stone-eyed, wide-eyed, and Edward gets very concerned, and his scissors go right through. And might I say, he's a pretty smart inventor, but why start with scissors? Can't we start with like metal rods?
Or just make some sort of. Why not start with hands? I don't get it.
I'm going to finish you eventually, but for now, let's give you lethal weapons that make it impossible to eat or scratch you or pick up anything ever.
And then gives you the mentality of a 5-year-old child who poke. Really.
I don't know, but I did like his little cookie maker. That was nice. The legs that stomp on the dough. The egg that cracks, and it was a very nice kind of Rube Goldberg kind of type thing. Yeah, great role by Vincent Price.
And then, of course, sad, obviously, Vincent Price's last film.
Yes, sir.
And to juxtapose that would be Mr. Johnny Depp's first leading role.
Oh, yes. He's done a couple of Tim Burton flicks since then. But
this would be the meeting of Johnny Depp and Tim Burton.
To have some wonderful collaborations and
some
maybe not so wonderful. We'll touch on those later. But he was from 21 Jump Street and had not a Johnny Depp expert, but had been in Friday the 13th, or not Friday the 13th. I'm sorry, I always throw those around in my head. Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah,
that was his first acting role in a big film.
Yeah, but this was his first lead performance.
Yeah,
and he, I think, lost like 25 or so pounds, something like that, for the role of Edward.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Fun little trivia here: Tom Cruise was considered for the role. Robert Downey Jr. was also considered.
One of those you can actually imagine.
I can kind of yes. Maverick, you mean, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I think it's
always fun to
his
think
favorite
who
role of mine, but and also I did want to bring up this was when he's asked about it. It's Tim Burton, that is. It's his most personal film, he says.
Yeah.
And Danny Elfman, who's his longtime composer, he uses on the majority of his films if he's available.
Yeah.
His most personal work, and it's one they say that they're most closely tied to.
I can see that.
And a lot of that is Tim Burton's childhood. He's knows what it was to be bullied, to be the outsider, to feel isolation, like Edward does.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of, he says, kind of his fantasy. If, Anthony Michael Hall's demise at the end of the flick, that's kind of his fantasy. A lot of people thought, oh, that was too dark. You can't have a character killed in this type of film. But, no, Tim Burton, he'll kill you, throw you out the window.
I've heard that before, and I think, did you watch the rest of the film? It was clearly leading up to something like this happening.
Yeah, it was, I wanted to bring that up too, because there's parallels there to Frankenstein, the various adaptations of...
I can see that.
That, is this creature kind of, or, that's not like everyone else, that does gain acceptance a little bit. But then eventually is too much, and the mob, he's too different, and doesn't belong. And the mob rallies, pitchforks, rump. And
they even went a slight flip-flop as well, because I think the original Frankenstein monster ends up accidentally killing someone, then the mob turns up, and this time the mob turns up. And this time the mob turns up. And then he kills someone.
And then he kills, the leader, kind of. But, it's very much, chase him away out of town, up to his mansion,
and then burn down the mansion.
No.
It's very interesting to see how easily your typical suburbans can be incited to, technically, I guess it would be mass murder.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's a lynch, that's what a lynch mob. But it does also contain one of my favorite plot devices, which is the old person... telling the story, and then we get to see the story unfold, like The Princess Bride would be, Peter Falk telling it to the Fred Savage character. This is a little more, that's like a book he's reading. Yeah. She's telling a real story, and it's the old, Winona Ryder. Very... prosthetic makeup was in its infancy there, but she looks pretty good, passes as an old woman there.
Yeah. And then used again fantastically by Mr. James Cameron in the Titanic.
Yes. A little bit in Forrest Gump, although that's a different device where we pick up the story in the third act and then move forward. It's not all retrospective. But I do like that plot device of having the character tell the story, or one of the characters tell the story in the, kind of the play within the play type thing with Shakespeare or something. But
even sort of gives it an extra layer there, so you're even more drawn into it because you've seen this character at the beginning and they're telling a personal story, so you're kind of going with them. Rather than just a story outright.
It all starts because the granddaughter asks her, "Why does it snow?" And she's like, "Well, short story because Edward's still alive. It never snowed before he came down here, and blah blah blah."
I sometimes like to think that since that day it's never stopped snowing. Like they've not had a single day of sunshine.
There's just snow above their houses.
They're all stuck inside. Can't go anywhere.
I will also say Alan Arkin. I love Alan Arkin, and he's fantastic as the dad in this. I don't know. Pours him a drink, tells him it's lemonade, like a strong adult drink, and I love it. And also one of my favorite lines in there by him: "You can't buy the necessities of life with cookies." Talking about well, he's getting asking him, "Are you making any money from your gardening jobs or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh, I got some cookies or whatever." Yeah. You can't buy the necessities of life with cookies, can you? Yes, ask Anthony Michael. No, you can't, sir. No.
Absolutely.
But I love it. I just love everything about that movie. I love that it's an unconsummated relationship, unconsummated love story, really.
Very much so, yeah.
Like, he is in love with Kim from the second he sees a picture of her in the house, and she eventually realizes she's with an asshole and realizes she would rather be with Edward than anyone else. And there's that great moment, I'd say my favorite scene in the film, when they're all looking for Edward because he has accidentally scratched the son's face while trying to save him from being run over by a van piloted by Anthony Michael Hall's drunken friend. And he shoves him out of the way, and then, showing concern, scratches him up with his wonderfully designed scissor hands.
Once again, not the smartest inventor.
And he's just worried, but of course. So the lynch mob is trying to find him, and of course he returns to the house, and that's where Kim finds him, and she says she's scared, and she says, "Hold me." And there's a long pause. I can't. Yeah. And if you don't have, if that doesn't break your heart, you don't have one.
Well, I don't think I did when I was younger then.
Heartless bastard. Okay, but
I would say now probably, but back then,
at least, or if you at least can't understand why that might break someone's heart, maybe I can go extend that olive branch.
All right, I'll take that. I'll go with that one.
But yeah, she does then walk over to him, and she puts his arms around her.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I go for those movies where I'm going to be heartbroken and depressed. But it does a wonderful job of doing that.
Well, at least it takes you on more of a ride than just your typical...
I mean, it is a sad commentary, though, that we want to be accepting of those different than us when we try, but there's always going to be a discord if they're too different. If he was too unique, too special. And
you've got, as we said earlier, we have suburbia. Mm-hmm. So everyone lives this very specific life. And not only is he different, like lovable, different, but different enough, he's starting to change the suburbia, and people start to realize that maybe they don't want it to change. Because people are afraid of change as well as difference.
And it's not as depressing as I once thought, like long ago. When I saw it young, I probably didn't pick up on this, but in the years I've watched it over and over, at the end of the film, right before he kills Anthony Michael Hall, whatever, they do get to share a kiss, and very quickly, and she says, "I love you," and so they have that moment. But then, really close to the very end of the film, they show him at the mansion, trimming up his sculptures, his garden sculptures, and there's like a slight smile on his face.
Yeah.
So
he's making at the end with the ice sculpture. And he's making her.
Yeah. Who holding the ice for him? Does he have an ice guy that just comes up with 40 tons of ice? Here's your ice order. Well, and here's some cookies. I'll pay for them with cookies. And it knows, I don't know how you think money works, sir, but this is not money. The wife will appreciate these, but cookies, money? Yes, no.
Well, it could be, obviously, as he's been making it snow constantly over the years. Maybe the pond by the house is frozen over enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how he's using a chainsaw to get this out of there, but
he doesn't need to just chink.
Yeah, my point is, at least I believe that he is appreciative of this experience he had in that suburbia world, that he had that relationship with Kim and her family, and he met friends and found acceptance, even for a brief period of time. And maybe resigned isn't the right word, but is comfortable with his life now in solitude.
Obviously it's safer for him, and he grew up there.
Safer for both parties,
and he gets to live with the memories. So most people would call that reclusive, but
but I love it. Yeah. It's gothic fiction, and at its best in my mind. But,
I can't really add much. It is a very good film.
I could go on for a lot. We need to go on to the next, because you will get me going on for another half hour about that movie.
All right, well, the next one in chronological order, we have Batman Returns.
And he does.
And this one, he is the director and writer on this one. So he wasn't attached to write the first one, but he managed to write this one. And this one is typically seen as the best in that.
I do prefer it over Batman,
Yeah. A very good take on the Batman thing, a good continuation of the story.
Yeah. You have the first appearance of Selena Kyle, I believe, in that world, at least. Yeah.
And, of course, you've got Mr. Christopher Walken as a villain of the piece.
Yes, Christopher Walken. A stretch for him to play a villain, I know. That is a good one. Yeah, I love Danny DeVito as the Penguin, even though it looks a little campy now, maybe.
Yeah.
Or hackney, but I still love it. I still love him as the Penguin. I don't know. Maybe I'm sensing a disagreement here.
No, it's a good Penguin. I'm just thinking, whenever I watched it, I thought maybe they could have worked a little bit longer on the hand, because it does look like they just shoved his hand into 3-finger gloves.
into some black mittens or whatever,
so maybe you could have taken a little bit more time to come up with something.
I'm sure those Batmobiles they had were pretty expensive. They might have had to cut a few dollars on the Penguin's wardrobe. I don't know.
Maybe Tim Burton himself could have given us some of his money to R&D.
Yeah.
But So
spared no expense on the Catwoman wardrobe, let me tell you.
I knew someone who their younger brother really enjoyed watching this film, and he couldn't figure out why. And so I actually ended up saying, a young boy is interested in watching Batman Returns, where there's a woman in a tight leather suit. Nope.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just got great production design. That's what it is. I love the cinematography in this film, and yeah.
Well, and even more so than Batman, yet very much a Tim Burton.
It's his
world.
Yeah. It's kind of his Narnia, if you will. It all takes place in this world, one way or another.
To be fair, I think Gotham City is pretty much heaven for Tim Burton, I think.
I mean, it starts with the word goth, so very much so.
Yeah, very bleak, seedy underground, and colourful characters. Seedy underground, colourful characters. Yeah, that's Tim Burton all over. I don't have too much to say on this one.
No, I mean, it's a good film.
Worth a watch at least.
Absolutely. I mean, if you haven't seen it now, it's probably one of those you're not going to see. You can jump out and see if you haven't. If you're not interested, like, ooh, what's this? Batman Returns? I've never heard of that.
Oh, is this another Christopher Nolan film?
Yeah, I like it. It's definitely on his, I'd say, plus side of things. You know, the pro column for me. I don't know. So I think moving along there.
Yeah, well, the next one...
He loves the name Ed, let me tell you what. Because another movie later, there's a main character with the name Ed. But
right.
I believe it's next. Am I correct on this one?
Okay. The one after this. This one, of course, being Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. The one that he didn't direct.
I'm sorry. I was going by direction. We will get to what I was thinking of in just a minute. But yes.
Yeah. Well, this one is normally seen as his best film, despite the fact he didn't direct it.
Yeah, sorry, I believe Henry Selick for that. Thunder being stolen from you.
No one remembers the director of this one.
Who directed that? Yeah, that's a Tim Burton movie, right? Yeah.
I'm sure there are people that remember the director of this one, but still. And you can see why. I mean, this is clearly...
When you think Tim Burton, those are the first images, at least that pop into my head.
Yeah.
The crooked trees and
this is clearly... I mean, you got a slight taste of it in Beetlejuice with some of the things that you saw in the other world and all of that, and then and even some of the sculptures in the newly built house. But this is clearly Tim Burton. They handed him a sum of money and saying, make whatever the hell you want. And this is what he came up with. Yeah,
it was his, I think, original story, even though he didn't write the screenplay. It was his story concept, and then produced it.
Yeah, mostly his characters as well. He came up with most of those. And this is one of those things where I watched it as a child and loved it, and it was when I rewatched it I realized it was a musical. Which
I guess maybe that goes a long way to explain why, I know you feel differently, but why I love musicals. This was my first theater experience.
Right.
My sister took me to the film, what was that, 93? Yeah, 1993.
There you go.
Yeah. And, that was, I was 11 years old. So, that was, I know, a little late for some people getting to the theater, but my, like we've talked about before, my parents weren't big movie people. So. But that was definitely my first theater experience, and probably a big reason why I love that movie so much.
Yeah, well, I
mean, not standalone the fact that it's a great movie. But.
Yeah. I was going to say I have nothing against the film whatsoever. It's a really good film. I mean, some of the songs I'm a little bit bored by, but that's just because of my particular preferences. But the actual story and the film itself, I can't really.
I just love looking at it. The gangly limbs and the stringy characters and so.
And I mean Jack Skellington is a fantastic character, and I think the best example of sort of him being like the gangly guy is at the end when he's saving the two of them from Oogie Boogie, and he's coming up with all of the stuff, and he's just like he's dodging all of the things, he's up on top of everything, using his leanness and acrobatics actually to a fairly good extent. In fact, I think that whole thing where you got Oogie Boogie trying to get rid of them and then Jack turning up, and that whole thing is probably one of like the best sort of Tim Burton moments of film. It's just a really dark thing, and the hero does, I would say, quote unquote, kill him at the end. I mean, there's a sequel where Oogie comes back and whatever, but that's not about it. I don't think Tim Burton's not associated with that particular one.
No. I did want to bring up that there's this fun little trivia, at least in my mind. the voice of Jack Skellington is played by none other than Prince Humperdinck, who I've already mentioned in the film, which I mentioned on a lot of podcasts, The Princess Bride. Yeah, he's in that. He was the voice. Danny Elfman did the singing.
Yes, he did.
For Jack Skellington.
Which, if you actually watch the film, I think there's only a couple of times where you really can notice that it might not be the same thing. And it's just like he'll be talking and then launch into song, and it's like,
not quite right. Yeah.
But, yeah, very well
Definitely
done.
easier to pull off an animation than when an actor is pretending to sing in a voice that clearly isn't theirs.
Well, I like to think of Robin Hood Men in Tights in that one where he starts to sing The Night is Young.
Yeah. Sorry. Pantomiming here. Okay.
You can probably guess what.
Free podcast.
So, yes, fantastic film, and even though he didn't direct it, definitely his most associated with that.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, highest rating on...
I would say Ed Scissorhands. Even though your stats say that, I'd say Ed Scissorhands is probably what I think of, at least when I think of Tim Burton.
Well, no, Tim Burton fans, like, everyone's got their film that they think of Tim Burton as, but obviously this is Tim Burton.
I will always champion that film, yeah.
But, I would say this would probably be most people's introduction then to Tim Burton, I would say. It's
on Netflix. If, for some reason you've been
currently
in a coma and just waking up. You've been in a coma from 1992 till now. Go watch this film.
Currently, tragically, the only Tim Burton film on Netflix.
Is it really? I find that tough to believe.
No, I looked it up about a week ago, and that was the
only
only one I searched Tim Burton, that was it.
Wow. Well, that's actually kind of nice, because the higher demand movies they want to keep for the DVD rentals. Yeah. So I guess he's in high demand. That's what I'm going to take from it.
Let's go for that.
Moving along.
Another...
Now to my precursing of the Edward names, I believe.
Yes, it is. It is Edward.
Okay. Yet another material last name. Ed Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Ed Concrete, he never got to.
He directed and wrote this one. It's another Johnny Depp film, and this is the other joint number 2 critically rated film.
One of those second-tier favorite films of mine by Tim Burton's.
I definitely enjoyed. This was actually, with the exception of the more modern ones, obviously came out in the last 5 or 6 years. This was the most recent. I think prior to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, this was the most recent one that I ended up watching for the first time.
Oh, really? Yes. Yeah.
I think I ended up watching it when I was in university. And it was either on TV or I bought it on DVD for £3 or something. Yeah. I went home and watched it, and I was like, wow, this is a really solid film.
So, I probably heard about this movie about 10 years or so ago, and I was just watching a lot of older... I was trying to fill in holes of things I should have seen over the years, and I don't know how it got brought up, but I was like, I don't know anything about that. And it was Tim Burton. Okay, Johnny Depp. Okay. I'm in. About a biopic about the best, worst director of all time. Who was a cross-dresser, and I'm like, okay, has everything in it for me. Even I'll tolerate a little Sarah Jessica Parker for that. Which actually she's pretty decent in this film, I will say.
Well, I would say the character that she plays, it seems like she pretty much fit solidly into it.
Yeah, and a great use of black and white. I love black and white when it's done really well, which, I mean, obviously old films and you don't really have too much of a choice, but it's nowadays, and I'm considering that nowadays, even though it's an older film, it's used for a stylistic choice, and there are pops of color in it, which I love. The pinks and the...
Always good when you get the one or two little things of color that's supposed to really...
I think like the pink sweater, like the women's sweater he wears or whatever is pink, and Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi is fantastic. I believe he might have been nominated for that. I don't know. I might be just making that up, but
I'm not sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if he had been.
Should have been.
He's wonderful as Ed Wood's friend who, I don't know, tried to understand Ed Wood. I don't know. When not many people were giving him a chance. And for good reason. He was a horrible, horrible director. If you haven't seen Plan 9, watch it and laugh your ass off.
It's one of those things of, it's a guy who has so many ideas, they're just not necessarily the best.
With no ability to execute them. I mean, Glenn or Glenda, that was, a man about a cross-dresser, and there's a couple other ones that he did a lot of horror stuff, But Plan 9 from Outer Space was just the absolute best.
It must be one of those things where going completely off topic, Monty Python, when they first went into the BBC, and they sat down with, not the head guy, but one of the higher-ups, and they were like, we've got this idea for a show. And so they were asking, it's like, okay, so are there going to be songs in it? We don't know. Are there going to be any special guests? We don't know. Is there going to be any sets that you need? We don't know. All right, we're going to do 13 episodes, but that's all. It's like, he must have just walked in with a script and gone, I've got a script. Fine, here you go, have a set. Back when, I guess, studios were just able to do that. Now there's no way you could do that, going to a studio and getting that done.
Yeah. But it's a wonderful movie. I don't know.
Definitely go see it.
It's not like something I would sit down and normally watch, because it does take a lot of your attention. But it's fascinating if you don't know anything about the guy, Ed Wood. I mean, not that I'm saying this is a straight factual biopic. It is meant to entertain. But he was a passionate guy.
Very grounded in the stuff that was going on in what he was going through. And Johnny Depp does a fantastic performance as Ed Wood.
Is this amazingly passionate director with a very bizarre home life and just bizarre friends. It's great. It's one of those Tim Burton worlds again.
And Johnny Depp has gone on record as saying basically his portrayal of Ed Wood is based on Tim Burton at this point.
That makes me wonder about Tim Burton's home life. What he and Helena Bonham Carter are up to.
I think just a slight kookiness to the character.
Not reading too much into that. Okay.
Yes. Not necessarily the sweater wearing.
Gotcha. All right, so that's Ed Wood, folks.
The next one, going in order again, another directed and wrote Mars Attacks, which is actually not that well liked, I think.
I find its fans are very passionate
about
it.
That's it. And I'm one of those. I'm one of the people that really enjoy watching the film. That's not necessarily to say that it's the greatest Tim Burton film. It's not to say that it's a stunning piece of cinema. It's just a really fun film to watch. It's really...
I would be on the opposite side of that. I think collectively I've probably seen the whole movie, but never at once.
It's okay.
And it's just, it keeps my attention for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I go, what the hell am I watching? And I change the channel.
I can see that, especially if you jump into it like 10 minutes in. You're starting to get to the realm of,
like, I get what you're going for, but I'm not on board. I don't know. So I want to hear the perspective of someone that is on that.
Well,
on that
rewatching it and everything, you've got lots of people in there that you have forgotten are connected to this. You've got Jack Nicholson, who plays the president, and a southern wealthy businessman, both of whom die. The president, it's a very unfortunate death. The southern businessman, you basically think he gets what he deserves. And you've got people like Michael J. Fox, who does a fantastic small role. I mean, he's only on screen for less than 3 or 4 minutes, and he ends up getting shot by the alien disintegrator ray.
Jack Black. Jason Stone. Oh, Jack Black was in that.
Yeah, Jack Black is in it. He plays a army, like he's just joined the army. He's got the crew cut. He's disassembling and reassembling guns blindfolded, and he's doing the guard duty when the aliens turn up, and he ends up getting killed as well. Like, he really doesn't
Billy
have much
Glenn Norris was his character name, apparently. Natalie Portman was in the film. I did not know that.
Yeah, she is the daughter of the president, actually.
96. Yeah, I guess she'd be pretty...
she'd
be 14. Right? We're the same age, so... Yeah.
So,
if Zoe's not available, she's my backup plan.
Yeah.
Nice, I have a reasonable, attainable backup plan, right? That she's married with child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
those things fall apart all the time, right? Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, Hollywood. Give it another couple of years.
Tom Jones, Sarah Jessica Parker again.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito again.
Yep. He plays the sort of person you probably imagine Danny DeVito playing, like, kind of wise guy.
Now, I doubt this is his first name, but his credit is Rude Gambler. I doubt his first name is Rude. He is an impolite character.
Yeah, he's a guy in Vegas who
seem to remember a little bit.
He ends up becoming part of the small group that's constantly running away from the Martians. And Frank Welker is the voice of every single Martian.
Frank Welker, ooh, I know that name.
Yeah. Nibbler. And it's not a stretch for him to play the Martians, given that the Martians say one word. And it is, ack. That is the word. And it's just, they'll be talking to each other, just ack, 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 ack. And then the other Martian will look at him and say, ack, ack. And then so on and so forth. So, not exactly the toughest gig he's had in terms of voice acting, but it suits the Martians down, and the Martians clearly have what we would class as a morbid sense of humour. When it comes to saying, you've got Pierce Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker. Pierce Brosnan becomes a head, like just a head attached to these clamp thing, and Sarah Jessica Parker has her head put onto her dog, which is a chihuahua.
Of course she does.
And then the dog.
Why wouldn't they put her on the head of a horse? Oh wait, no, she already looks like one. Okay. Unfair, uncalled for. Okay.
And anyway, a horse is not a viable pet for a news reporter.
Oh, okay. I see. We're dealing with reasonable things that happen in this film.
In this Martian attacks film, where they basically all their heads explode because of this one music from this one guy who's a crooner from like the 50s, the I'm calling you, and then it's one of those films that it can just be fun to sit and watch. You see all of these people doing cameos, and all of these other people that aren't doing the cameos actually doing fairly good job at acting in the film. I think there were several sort of, either if not first films, then first few film people in there, and it got a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. So as I said, not the.
I have a good friend of mine I've known since we were about 13 or 14, who loves Mars Attacks. And other than you, sir, we quote movies the most, or speak in movie, using quotes or whatever. And he'll throw something out, and I don't recognize it. And 90% of the time, it is from Mars Attacks. And I'm like, what? Wait, explain that one. He's like, Mars Attacks? And I have to remind him that I don't like that film.
I've not seen it.
I haven't seen it in its entirety. It's like, oh, it's great, it's great. And I have to hear about all the reasons it's great again. Like I said, its fans are loyal, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just not for me.
It's also really odd, because growing up, I saw the film, and then none of my friends had seen it. Coming over here, I work with people, none of them have seen it. I work with a new group of people now, none of them have seen it. My wife has not seen it. It's like... It's
much almost, of the population.
It's almost as if I've seen a film that actually doesn't exist. I just have this thing in my head.
If you didn't have a hard copy of it, you might convince yourself it didn't exist. I don't know.
But it's one of those films that I just love to sit and watch at times, and it is one of those things where you can kind of switch off and just enjoy the somewhat crudish humor at times, and obviously it's Martians attacking. It's not exactly a groundbreaking storytelling aspect, but just fun to watch. And again, you can see, especially with how the aliens all get up and everything, you can tell, again, Tim Burton. And this one is one of my, say, top 3 Tim Burton films, just because of how much I enjoy watching it.
Well, that's a reason to have something as a favorite, I think. Because you enjoyed it.
Not necessarily because I think it's his best work.
Okay, not technically speaking. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Well, next
Trucking
up,
along.
we have Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy, aptly titled.
This is...
For me.
Yeah, for the next 1, 2, 3,
Felt
4...
pretty hollow, and I was very sleepy.
For the next 4 films, including this one, this is just direction, and... Once again, Johnny Depp is in it, and Christopher Walken again. Only a brief thing in there, but still, can't criticise his performance. Doesn't say a word, but there we go. And this is one of those films that, despite the fact that it looks really good and the acting is not bad, it's just slow.
It is, and I can appreciate a slow movie if, like, Lincoln, I would call a slow film.
Oh yeah,
but you have to pay attention to the dialogue and all that stuff. This, I expected something else. It said horror or thriller or whatever, and I was not horrified or thrilled. I was horrified with how long it took to get to the end. But I was not thrilled.
I think one main problem with this film is it spent too much on, I don't want to say establishing shots, but I think he tried to tell too much without dialogue, just by either going on the expressions or holding on the scene for a little bit too long. I think this sort of film needs to have more dialogue, more backstory,
more Headless Horseman killing. I mean, you have a Headless Horseman, which is a terrifying concept, at least in my mind. Come and murder you. And very few scenes of that, as I recall. It's been years since I've seen it.
Well, I think the first
two... when are we going to get some heads falling on the ground? around here.
The first 2 or 3 killing, you don't even see the horseman. You just see the person being terrified.
Yeah.
You hear horsemen.
And I'm like, this isn't Jaws. We don't have to keep it hidden.
Yeah. And then the next one, I think, you see the horseman hunting someone down, killing them. He also then tries to hunt down Ichabod, although I think the idea is he's supposed to just be scaring him away.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then you see him again when he's trying to get to the church, but he can't get in the church. And then you see him at the end. Like, the rest of it is just him trying to solve this thing of, like, there's no such thing as mystical. It's all explained by science. And annoyingly, when you hear that, the first time it's like, I'm a science man, and there's nothing mystical about this. And you know roughly what the film's about. You know, going into it, that he's going to be proved wrong, and there is going to be an actual headless horseman.
Yes, of course.
And it's almost painful for a couple of the scenes where he's just going through, like, well, it must be this, it must be this. It's like, no, we know you're wrong. If you hadn't marketed it the way you did, maybe we could have gone into it thinking, it might actually just be someone dressing up and doing the killing, but we're fairly certain from the start that it's an actual... proper headless horseman.
I just don't think it was the right fit for Tim Burton.
No.
It doesn't... I mean, it still has that feel that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But I feel like a more... like a horror director... like a Wes Craven or something would have been terrific, or something like that, just to really bring the darkness out, and not so much of just the Christina Ricci. Enough of the Christina Ricci. She has her good roles, but I was bored to tears.
I would say
with her.
I would say Adam Family.
Yeah, and also
I think by Casper she was kind of stretching it out.
There's also a Batman alum in there, as well as Christopher Walken. There's Michael Gow, who was Alfred. I don't know who he was in this. Notary, apparently, but yeah, I'm just pulling this from my mind, people. I am that good.
Yes, he's sitting there meditating.
I'm using my movie database, which is no way online.
No, not at all.
So I don't know. I know that film has its following, like Mars Attacks, but in this case, I think we were both not in that.
Not a film that I feel the need to watch again.
I would watch it again just because I have only seen it one time, and
I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times by now.
And I don't know, maybe I was in the wrong mindset, but I feel like there's so many films I need to see or will never see. I don't want to watch something that I already know I probably am not going to like. Yeah. So I doubt I'll ever get around to it.
I think by the 3rd time I watched it, I was fast forwarding through it, and that's never a good sign.
No, not so much. So what's next on the docket?
Next is one we're probably going to skip over with
The World of Stainboy?
No. Planet of the Apes.
Yep, next. You'll see a theme when he covers material that's already been covered. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even with Sleepy Hollow, it's an established story. It's a folklore type story.
Yeah, it does seem that if he's writing it, or at least
if
he has
some
more
connection with the writers, or collaboration there,
seems to go better. I mean, I wouldn't say that myself for everything that he's just directed, but it seems that when he writes and directs, or when he produces and directs, or does something like that, then it seems to come off, obviously we're Tim Burton fans, so it seems to come off more as some of the stuff that we like from him. So, yeah, Planet of the Apes, it's a film.
It's a film, true enough. I don't think a film that needed to be remade. I'm not like a big supporter of the Charlton Heston one, but it's a good film, and I don't know why we needed a reimagining.
I thought the ending of this one was stupid.
I don't know, and haven't there been more? I don't know. Wasn't there more after that? I don't know.
They did Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet, which is supposed to be like a prequel or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically how, like, because you obviously in that Planet of the Apes, or one that we just skipped over, he comes back, and it turns out that everything that he did was in the past, because he comes back and Lincoln was an ape, and everyone's an ape, and it's like, okay, you decided to do the switch of it was all in the past, not the future, but this one is taking, the original Planet of the Apes was in the future, and there's a couple of really good inside things, like there's a news report that a space probe has gone missing, and it's the one that originally ended up turning up in Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
And
I'd like to say I'm with you, but I'm not.
No. I looked up this stuff, don't worry.
Okay.
And this is how we went from us dominating the planet to the apes gaining sentience and massing together.
Okay, I've heard enough.
Yeah, it doesn't end with the apes have taken over the planet, but it ends on a slight down note for humanity.
Well, I feel justified in having not viewed this film. So.
I would say the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, meh. The Rise of the Planet of the Apes is actually worth watching at least just once.
We'll see.
And then you can take from it
or
what
we
you
won't
will.
see. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg yelling, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah.
He can yell at plants. And that's...
much better in the other guys, I think, when he's doing stick with comedy, sir.
I can't believe what's happening. I'm Mark Wahlberg. I can't believe this is happening. Okay.
Why does this stuff keep happening to me?
Yeah.
Alright,
Why are the plants killing us?
Watch Day of the Triffids, it's really anyway.
That was The Happening, by the way. If you hadn't... Yes.
I knew that.
Okay.
I'm saying Day of the Triffids much better.
Okay, yeah.
Alright, so...
Alright, I hope... Let's see what is next.
Big Fish.
Thank you. Refreshing. Yes.
Alright, well, so Brian, I believe that you have seen...
I saw this just a few days ago again, watched it right after Head Scissor Hands, which is... quite a flip-flop.
I would say, yeah.
This is a much more uplifting story, which Tim Burton, that isn't the first adjective you think of.
I was going to say, it's probably a good thing you watched them in this order.
But what was that? Probably might have killed myself if I'd done Big Fish and Head Scissor Hands.
Oh, such a nice film. Oh, no. Oh, no.
God. Yeah. Why did they give him scissor hands? But yeah, once again, Danny Elfman, it's just one of those scores that is, I mean, it's just perfect. It's such a part of the movie, but I love that. And this film centers on kind of the disrepair or this fractured relationship of father and son. The father, who is a natural storyteller, and the son has heard these stories his whole life. Yeah. And loved them when he was a kid, and he believed them, believed in his father, and believed that they were true. Yeah. And now, as he's coming into adulthood, or in his late 20s, whatever, he's really he wants to know the truth, and wants to, and is prompted by all of this to find out that his father is very ill and on his deathbed, and comes home to America with Marion Cotillard, his French wife, and they have a baby on the way, and so they go there and to be with him and his mom until the end, as it is. His ulterior motive, or kind of another reason, well, while I'm here, maybe I can find out who my dad really is. Maybe we can repair this relationship, and I can get him to tell me the truth. And, it's one of those, again, that's told, you got the present, and then told all about the past. And you have various characters telling the son about his father. The father does a lot of the telling. There's Helena Bonham Carter, who plays Jenny and the witch, who tells him a story. Ewan McGregor plays the young Ed Bloom, which is just a fantastic character. He's just, everyone loves him. He's so full of life, and kind of so full of life he might be annoying, but doesn't. I don't know, it's not for me. He's just extremely likable in this film. And I don't know, it's one of my favorites. Probably, if I had to pick a second favorite Tim Burton film, this is going to fall in that category more often than not. Gun to my head, this is going to be it. It's just so well told. You have Danny DeVito in there again. As the ringleader of the circus. You've seen it, correct?
Yes, it has been a while, but yes, I've seen it.
I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, when I watched it, I was much younger, and I hadn't yet gone to film school. Thinking back on it, I can remember it and remember some of it, and it's like, not only can I sort of see aspects of Tim Burton in it, I can see what they did with some of the scenes, and it's like, oh, right, like, they're trying to tell that. Whereas, obviously, when I first watched it, it was just a fantastical story. And I probably had seen other Tim Burton films at that point, and it wouldn't have clicked for me back then that it was Tim Burton, or anything like that. As you said at the beginning, this is not your typical Tim Burton fare.
No, even though it much looks like his world, it's the subject fare is not really
it's a little bit too light for Tim Burton. But I remember really liking it, and I want to see it again. I don't know when I'm going to have the time, but
part of in my research, part of what drew Tim Burton to this project was that his father had recently passed away, and he had tried to repair that relationship to no success. They didn't really have, I guess, much of a relationship, and that really drew him to this story, because the son really wanted to reconcile with his father. Yeah. So also a very personal story to him.
It must be then that a lot of the films that he is most liked for and all that, they do seem to have
the most of him
connection.
in it. Yeah. I love it. And spoiler, I know if you haven't seen the film, stop. But you do find out there, while he is a storyteller, and as stories go, exaggerations are bound to occur, and things have to be amplified to make it more interesting. As Ed Bloom puts it, all the fact, none of the flavor. That's what his son's a newspaper man, or a typical writer just writes nonfiction. Just this is what happened, when and where and why, and blah blah blah. Yeah. This is. He puts all the flavor in there. So as you find out, maybe not all of these things happened, but more things happened than you might have imagined. At the end of the film, you kind of find that out with the funeral scene.
There than you would think.
A lot of these people did exist, and while maybe not all of it made sense, because you find out, the witch was old, but Jenny was the witch, but how could she be older when he was a child and younger when he, it's like, well, it makes sense if you're Edward Bloom, or if you're living in that world. I don't know, and it's kind of, the main theme is that I drew away from it, other than reconciliation, is that we are our stories, that is really what encapsulates us, what makes us who we are. And Ed Bloom, in that way, his stories live on, and they show at the end of the film that the son's child is telling the grandfather's stories in a pool and stuff, and so that way he's immortal, he lives on. I think that I'm just pulling that line kind of out of the movie, but I don't know, it has everything for me.
Yeah, it's very solid film.
Great love story in there a little bit, but more about the son and father.
I can't really add too much to it, because as I said, I haven't seen it for a while, but I remember liking it. Very good. One of the things Tim Burton does well.
So as dark as Tim Burton's films can be, this is so vibrant with color that it's like the anti-Burton film, but it's still him. It's like, if you're going to do something really colorful and bright, this is what Tim Burton would do. And it's amazing. Still got some crooked, gangly, huge trees in there. You got him going through the old road that no one travels on, which very much reminded me of the fire swamps in Princess Bride. You'll see in a second. I reference that all the damn time. I love that. We got to do it. We'll do a Rob Reiner cast sometime. All right. But I don't know. There are definitely like the darker moments too, and there's even the invention. The dad's a father or a traveling salesman. And there's the handy-matic or whatever, which is a hand with all these little attachments, which very much looks like Edward Scissorhands a little bit. And then Ed Bloom, his bones were growing too fast for his muscles, and so he's in this bed with this machine like working his legs, which is very much a Tim Burton machine, like Ed Scissorhands and all that stuff. It's definitely got those mechanics to it. It looks wonderful. It's incredible. I love it. Love it. And of course, Steve Buscemi, one of his 300 movies he's been in. As the great poet Norther Winslow. Roses are red, Buscemi. Violets are blue. Spectre is really great. Award-winning poet. All right, I think can move on.
Yeah, well, the next one is a little bit of a leap in time, really. I'm not 100% sure what he was doing. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the next directorial thing, and this is, again, he is just directing this one. This one has an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I believe my co-host...
I think that's 82% too high.
Yes, we disagree. And this is also the second highest successful commercially film.
I can see that. Kids, that one. Parents take the kids.
Yeah. Now, I will go into this saying I enjoyed the look of the film. As we know, I'm a visual fan there, and I enjoyed Deep Roy as the Oompa Loompas. I
hate Deep Roy.
I like the songs in this one better than I like the songs in the original. So if you could have moved the songs from this one into the original film and kept the rest, then
I don't know.
That would have been it for me. But that mainly because I thought the songs in the other one were possibly a little bit too slow just for the world. I mean, because obviously the songs in this one, each one has its own style to it, and I thought they worked well with the characters, and apparently these songs were taken, at least the seed for these songs, were taken straight from the book. The original one, they didn't do that. They wrote their own songs, whereas these were, I think some of the stuff from it is actually in the book, and then they've embellished it and gone further, because I doubt the entire songs are in the book to make the book a bit longer. But this one is seen as much more faithful to the original Roald Dahl book, and Johnny Depp, can't really fault him as Willy Wonka. I still prefer the Gene Wilder.
I don't know whose choice that voice was, but I could not stand it. I could not stand Johnny Depp's voice in that film. I don't know, anytime you're tackling an iconic performance like Gene Wilder's, I think you're almost setting yourself up for failure, at least in my mind. It's such a tremendous challenge, which people would have said about Jack Nicholson's Batman. You're not going to top that. You're not going to, or not, well, in Batman, you know what I meant, the Joker. But as we showed, there are exceptions to that rule. Thank you, Heath Ledger. But that, for me, I don't know. I mean, I prefer the songs in the original. I prefer everything about the original. I hate Deep Roy for... I mean, I'm not a little person, but I know the little people are not happy that he stole all their jobs because he was just cloned or duplicate, CGI'd into everywhere.
I hated the fact that they didn't seem to be able to localize this film to one particular country because... Obviously, the idea is it's supposed to be England, sort of, but they call chocolate candy. Half of the people don't seem to have a particular accent, and the boy is... I can't fault the actor.
Freddie Highmore?
Yeah, I can't fault him with his job. He does a good job. I just think that Charlie Bucket... as I remember from the book, is much more the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory Charlie Bucket. Because that's what he is. He's high energy. He's like going around everything, getting into trouble. Like this Charlie Bucket is just a do-gooder. Yeah, I mean, and obviously Charlie Bucket is kind of like that, but this is going a bit too far with it, I think.
I don't know, like everything. Maybe I just had my hopes way too high, which I know that's part of it, but that's not all of it because I still just don't like the movie. But when on paper. When you're thinking, okay, Tim Burton attached to the Chocolate Factory.
Roald Dahl.
Yes. I love Roald Dahl. I love that. Okay, I love that. Love Tim Burton. Oh, and Johnny Depp's going to be Willy Wonka. Like, that sounds perfect for Johnny Depp. Like, with the hat and the quirkiness and, like, oh, he can do quirky like nobody else. And it just fell completely flat for me.
Right, you even had some fairly good English talent attached to it that you see. Like, I think about 3 of the people in this film were also in like Love Actually. If we're going to like, all these people that do good stuff and
like
and
a lot
and
of
they're in
theater
that,
actors.
And it's like you're doing good based on what you got, but you're not quite
Once
jumping
again,
out.
Direct what you write, please, Tim Burton. I love you much more then. I'm willing to forgive at least the failures of my, even though statistics might disagree with me as far as calling this a failure, but I don't know.
One other thing I'll say, looking into it, I looked into the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And one thing, who named these bloody films? Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is about Charlie. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is about Willy Wonka.
I don't know. I can't answer that for you.
But anyway, Gene Wilder came out with the idea of when you first see him and he's walking slowly with the cane, and then he gets stuck and he keeps going, falls and rolls. That was all him. And he said he would take the role if he could do that. And the director said, why? And Gene Wilder said, because from that moment on you won't be able to tell if I'm telling the truth or not. Which is fantastic. You don't even really get it on a conscious level when you first see it, but like that's
is he playing or is he sincere?
And you get none of that with Willy Wonka. He's just a weirdo. He's a sincere weirdo.
And might I remind people that might make the same mistake that I did. I bought the original because I love the original. I bought the Super Edition as a gift for my niece, who, looking back, was far too young. If you remember the boat ride, scary as shit boat ride. Make sure it's age appropriate because I think it's a childlike film, but that boat ride is frightening as hell.
Or just be ready with the skip button.
Yeah, skip that whole thing. It's a little creepy there.
And they go into the tunnel and they're there. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, Yeah, they teleported. Okay, but oh my god, you know what I'm talking about. That is just woo. It's like, I think Tim Burton directed that part. It looks like it, but anyway, that's not that film.
It's also one of those things of, like, compared to the boat ride in the modern one, and it's like, you're hiding everything, but no, like, the original was better.
And the song is, like, terrifying. Oh my gosh. A grown man, I'm getting a little concerned about it.
Alright, well, let's move on.
Let's move on, please, to something a little lighter, like
Corpse Bride.
Dead bride, alright.
What would be the proper term? Because technically it's not necrophilia, but
it's borderline something.
It's the opposite, actually. It's the dead person that wants to sleep with the living guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
So this is...
What is it, a living person? Yeah, I don't know.
This is another directed and wrote one,
Yes.
and 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
I highly agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, getting back up there with the ratings. And let me just quickly say 1, 2, 3, 4. This one would be the 5th collaboration of Johnny Depp and Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm. And once again, his partner Helena Bonham Carter, who he's used quite frequently since then.
Yeah, basically it's a rarity not to have Helena Bonham Carter in a Tim Burton film.
Pretty much, yeah.
So just assume she'll be in there.
She'll be in there somewhere, playing an old craggly lady in makeup or something, but she'll be in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I much prefer Nightmare Before Christmas over Corpse Bride. I can't really say why, but maybe I thought that this one was a little bit too washed out.
Really?
I didn't get it. The dark bits didn't seem as dark to me. The more vibrant didn't quite seem as pop out there. I understand that the underlying there's more of an underlying story to this one than there is to The Nightmare Before Christmas, and the villain, quote unquote, is actually more of a real bastard. Like, he really deserves everything that happens to him. But it's one of those films that I went to see. I think I saw it in the cinema, and I came out thinking, well, that was a good film, but I just wasn't as invested, I think.
Really?
I can't fault any of the people in it. It's just one of those films that didn't grab me as much.
Yeah. For me, it's pretty close to an even scale with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Really?
And I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I love it. But Corpse Bride, I mean, looking at it and seeing the trailer, I waited till it was available for rental before I saw it. As Paul knows, I don't run out to the theater for everything. But I really have to be passionate about it. Yeah. But much prefer my home theater experience. But I did watch that, and I mean, looking at the trailer and remembering that, I'm like, oh, this looks just like Nightmare Before Christmas. The same gangly, long-legged characters.
Very much
same animated world. It looks like, Jack Skellington would make a cameo or something. I wouldn't be surprised if it had happened.
I was going to say, I'm almost expecting, if I ever see it again, to just see his head in the corner
somewhere. Yeah. I don't know. I loved it. I love the story. For me, I like the story more than I like Nightmare Before Christmas.
No, much more fleshed out story to this one.
It was just really entertaining for me. This woman that thinks she's been married to this guy. I don't know. I just love everything about it.
Very much mistaken identity.
I mean, and heck, if you don't have an hour and 17 minutes to spend on it, come on, it's a short film.
It's almost, you could almost say it's kind of a continuation of the Nightmare Before Christmas world. It's just, this is the living world. Mm-hmm. Like it looks very much like when you see the real world in Nightmare Before Christmas. It looks like those types of people, that sort of character, and this is the real world and the underworld rather than the holiday world. So it's
I don't know. I mean, it's probably one of those 5 or 6 I mentioned that are in the second tier below Edward Scissorhands for me, and that kind of alternates slots with my second favorite all time of his. But I don't know. I really enjoy it. I don't know why I don't own this film yet, but I will at some point. Write that down. Buy Corpse Bride, not Princess Bride. I can't get it out of my head.
Just something bride.
Something about brides. I don't know. Opposite of necrophilia. We have to find out what that is. A lot of dead people who want to be with a living person.
There must be something.
Fleshophiles. I don't know. Let's just call them that.
Stick with that for now.
Okay. Trademarked.
Trying to move along a little quickly here. Next one would be Sweeney Todd, the demon
barber of Fleet Street.
And this one, actually higher than Corpse Bride, 86%.
Wow. Yeah.
And this one is only directed. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he was working with or talked to the people that were doing the screenplay.
But I felt he was very suited for this material.
Yeah.
Though, even though he didn't write it.
I mean, it's a very morbid thing anyway. And Johnny Depp again, Helena Bonham Carter again, Sacha Baron Cohen doing a fantastic job. Actually,
very tolerable. That Sacha Baron Cohen. Usually, I get really annoyed with him very quickly, but I loved him in Sweeney Todd.
Well, I'd say he did fantastic in that. He did fantastic in Hugo,
and I would still like to see Les Miserables. To see, I've heard good things about him in that.
Right. He is a fantastic actor. He just does his own comedy vehicles, which only one of them was even tolerable, and I doubt it got released over here. Ali G in the House, And it probably wouldn't work over here. It wouldn't work over here because you don't have the chav thing over here. You guys have redneck rather than chav. So the whole thing that he's parodying makes no sense. So no one would get it over here. And so, of course, I think the first big release thing that he did was Bruno? No, Borat. Sorry, Borat then Bruno. So yeah, he's working his way alphabetically there. But yeah, so he is a good actor, and I want to see him do more stuff like Sweeney Todd and Hugo and stuff like that. I want to see him just go with drama. Slight Sacha Baron Cohen thing there. But anyway, I went to this... Everyone's going to laugh at me here. I went to this not knowing it was a musical.
Oh, right. Knowing nothing about Sondheim,
I knew
Stephen Sondheim.
nothing about Sweeney Todd. And if you watch the trailer, not a fucking single note.
Oh, and Mr. Anti-Musical was not warned.
No. I went into this, sat down, and when the first song came out, I turned to Jamie and I said...
Are they going to keep doing this?
I said, is this a musical? And she said, yes. And I said...
Check,
what?
Please.
I didn't leave. I watched it. I liked the story. It was very good. I didn't hate the songs. Wasn't necessarily fond of them, but I didn't hate them.
I don't like the opening one, London, whatever it is, or London.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that one, but I love Helena Bonham Carter's Pie song, whatever the meat pies. That's a great one. Come on.
No, I will say the songs, obviously, they're very suited to the characters. They've been around a long time, and the people in it, they seem to be very good at actually singing. And but yeah, I wish somewhere in the trailers or in the marketing they would have mentioned the word musical. just because
embrace it, come on.
There are going to be people that don't know that this was a musical and then they made a film on it.
Well, yes. I would love to actually see the musical production of Sweeney Todd sometime.
I'm sure it's good.
I love this. And of course you have Alan Rickman reprising his villain roles. Yes. Alan Rickman.
Sounding slightly less drunk in this than he normally does, but...
Slightly less intoxicated Alan Rickman. Mr. Potter. Yes. I don't know, I love the blood in it. It's like that hyper real, like Quentin Tarantino blood. The really vibrant, popping red.
Yeah, almost sort of Sin City-esque.
It's like, okay, it's not, made to look like real blood, but it's just so over-the-top violent that it's not violent. That it's almost a little comical. How the slitting their throats and then dumping them out of the chair down the little chute. And then I saw this with a good friend of mine, and we were laughing our asses off. Which people we were getting looks because, as I feel, they weren't all the way in it. Like they didn't understand. Like that's hilarious. Like his floating down the chute and this body thumping on the ground. That's fucking hilarious.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, we're laughing just how ridiculous that was. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is supposed to be a straightforward musical or story or something." Like, no, it's supposed to be a little silly like that. But,
I will grant it. It's got one of the best death scenes that really. Makes
Mrs. Lovett, maybe or no?
Yeah, Mrs. Lovett. That it's one of those death scenes that you watch it and you're like, "Oh, that's nasty." Oh, actually, yeah, that's being
pretty horrible.
Burned alive.
But being buried alive. Second, I thought that would be the worst, but I don't know.
Which, slight side note, watch Buried if you haven't.
I have, yes. To hell with you, Ryan Reynolds. I'm glad you died.
Yeah.
Spoiler! Whoops. Rewind 20 seconds, folks. Forget it ever happened.
I might just have to insert spoiler.
I mean, my interpretation. I will save it with air quotes. My interpretation is he died.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But, some of the deaths and some of the character interaction, it's all fantastic and probably should be. I mean, it's been around for how long. They've been able to really flesh out the characters over time, and then you write the screenplay of it. You've got so much to base it on. And it's a fantastic Tim Burton vehicle as well.
It is, it's just once again feels like that world, and I just love those kind of stories about. I love vengeance tales or revenge type tales. That a man is kind of like Guy Pearce and why am I thinking of Guy Pearce and the prison? Why can't I think of it? Count of Monte Cristo. Kind of something along those kind of lines. But, where he's been, or Les Miserables, or something like that, wrongly accused, or maybe rightly accused.
The best, of course, is My Name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
Yes, of course. Thank you. How did I drop the ball on that? One of my favorite films. But, his life has been destroyed unjustly and returns and is going to get Alan Rickman if it's the last thing he does. And of course, he's the steward of the beautiful Joanna. But Joanna. In case you had forgotten, sir.
Yeah.
But all right, I think we covered Sweeney Todd accurately.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, moving on. This one's probably going to be the next couple are just going to be quick ones, I think. Alice in Wonderland. I actually enjoyed it. And this is once again Johnny Depp. I think just kind of taking a role and loving it. He's got this. He's like doing that, but he's got the serious undertone, and there's sometimes where you see him and he's got that real serious streak to it. There's one point where he's kind of singing a little bit and telling her to do something, manages to fling her away to safety, and then turns around and says to all the guards who are coming at him with swords, very seriously in a gruff Scottish accent, "Death to the bloody Red Queen." It's one of those things like, okay, this guy...
Who's the Red Queen again? Has he ever worked with this person before?
I don't know. I think it's Catwoman. No,
Carter Helena Bonham?
Something like that.
All right, yeah. I actually am slightly embarrassed to say that I have not watched all of this film.
You haven't watched all of it? Okay.
I have not. I started it late at night, and I fell asleep about half hour in. And I've never got it, never watched it again. It was, I don't know, it was like I got it on Redbox.
Right.
And I just...
You had to take it back.
Had to take it back. I had like 3 Redboxes, and I was like, well, I'm not going to get back to this.
Right.
So...
Well, it's very
I've never rewatched it.
Very much, again, a Tim Burton film. Tim Burton Wonderland, again, another... Tim Burton Gotham, Tim Burton Wonderland.
Which sounds much like Chocolate Factory. Sounds like a great concept. I want to see Tim Burton's idea of Wonderland. Yeah.
And this one's actually very good. I mean, there's several bits in it where they point out it's not Wonderland, it's Underland. It's an actual play. And because she was a child when she first went there, she kept calling it Wonderland. Oh, yeah. And that's where it's come from.
So she's slightly mentally handicapped. Gotcha.
Well, after falling
she can't
twice.
hear. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's got the fantastical thing to it and all that, but I thought it's a fairly good story, and it's basically civil war is going on in Underland.
And Alan Rickman is the Blue Caterpillar, apparently, as I look up in my brain what the cast was. And the fantastic Stephen Fry as the Cheshire Cat, who I think is a fantastic choice for that. And again, this is another film where I can't fault anyone on the acting, because Helena Bonham Carter playing the Red Queen, sounds
who
completely
is
fitted,
very spoilt, childish Red Queen. Yes, I want that. Yes.
And one of my favorite character actors, Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, and it's just full of great actors doing great jobs. And it's got a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which, I can't judge it completely because I haven't seen it, but I was not thrilled with what I had seen.
I would say that's a little harsh.
A little harsh?
A little harsh. I'm not saying...
Would you rate it fresh? Up to, what is that, a 66 or something?
I would
or a 65?
I would definitely say it's better than Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
And that one's technically considered fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. So, just based on that, I would say it's better than that, and definitely worth watching all the way through.
Yeah.
And this is the number one commercially successful.
And I can completely understand that. But,
I can actually kind of see why some people might not like it, because they say, "Oh, it's just a cash in." Like, maybe more people loved the original Alice in Wonderland and didn't like the idea of it being a bit different. But
yeah, I'll give it another chance someday, just not today.
Fair enough. Well, the next one would be Dark Shadows, which I believe you have not seen.
I have not seen. I have no interest in seeing.
No, fair enough. 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can't say it's much better than that.
And I actually recall, even though they weren't new then, but I would catch reruns or something of the original show. Kind of gothic soap opera show.
Apparently the first season of that was just a fairly straightforward thing, and then from the second season onwards, they added the vampires, the werewolves.
All that campy, ridiculous stuff, yeah.
And based on what I've heard, based on what I've looked up, what they did with Dark Shadows is they kind of condensed everything and mixed a couple of the characters together into one. everyone, and there's even some points in it where right at the end, in the last 20 minutes, one of the characters is just revealed to be a werewolf, and she's a werewolf for 30 seconds, and then she's back into her normal form. Nothing is ever mentioned of it again. Like, there's no alluding to it whatsoever. There's no mention of werewolves at any other point in the story. She's just a werewolf. Everyone's fine with it. She's back to normal. It's okay.
Once again, this I think is like the third time or whatever that before a trailer was out or whatever. Like I try to find out what's people are working on, and and I heard, Dark Shadows is going to be coming out. And Johnny Depp. Yeah. Then because I had slight memories of the show, and I'm like, that's going to be awesome. And then I saw the trailer, and I wanted to cry. It was just the trailer, if you recall, was very full of obvious jokes. The jokes just go to that tier 1 lowest common denominator place, and which I understand is if you're trying to do campy, that's kind of what you got to do. But it just didn't sell, and this is supposed to get me to watch this movie, and it just made me want to avoid it at all costs. Yeah. And from what I have heard, I've made the right choice.
Me and Jamie went to see it, and it was one of those things of, we came out of it and was like, yeah, it's all right. Like, it was...
I would think not worth $9 or $11.
No, yeah, we went to see it in England, and I think we paid... Well, it would have been...
it would have been £12. 8 or 9, yeah, £12.
So a little bit less in total than it would have been for 2 American film tickets, but still, yeah. And it was just one of those things. Like, well, I don't really feel the need to rewatch that. Like, I've seen it now. And it was
can't judge it too harshly, like I said, but judging a book by its cover, and the cover seems to be pretty ratty. So I don't know. I think and we should move on to our last one.
Well, yeah, the very last one. Unfortunately, neither of us have seen it. Which
so it'll be a quick discussion
very quick, which apparently is a complete wrong thing to do. He directed, wrote, and produced this film, Frankenweenie. It's got 89% of Rotten Tomatoes.
I've heard it's very cute, very well done.
It's based on a short story that he made in college. At least I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, and that's what Paul Rubens had seen that wanted him to get Burton to be attached to Pee-wee.
Yeah, and I've not seen any bad reviews of it or anything.
I'll see it. Yeah, it's not one of those rush out to the theaters for me.
No, and based on the trailer, I was kind of on it because there were a couple of jokes that kind of just seemed like.
And I believe it was in 3D as well. Sorry,
it was in 3D. Yeah, there was like the joke of like Mr. Whiskers left you this, and it was a thing of cat poop and like a skull and crossbone.
I will not eat the cat poop.
And then he says like, did you get that at the litter box? And then the cuts of the cat just go meow, and then I saw that and I was like, I'm not quite sure who you're playing.
It's one of those like we've discussed before. You kind of have to go in with the mindset, or with how we discussed rating certain things a certain way. You have to rate it for or have to appreciate it for what it is or what it's intending to be.
Yeah, I want to see it. I just don't know how much I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the person for that film, or if it's the film for me, whatever.
It might be one of those things of, maybe it's going towards people, it might even be set in a time where, like, most people in America or have grown up in that sort of neighborhood, but I won't have, so I won't quite get it. But anyway.
Enough postulating on the film we have not seen.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's working on right now, but hopefully it's something with Johnny Depp, and hopefully something he's writing.
Yes. Well, maybe even Johnny Depp writing. I don't know. All right. So that's our rundown of Tim Burton films. And so you've already said like your top sort of 2 would be Big Fish and
Edward Scissorhands. In no particular order. Ed Scissorhands. Yeah. It definitely is Scissorhands. And then about 5 or 6 others. Yeah. Starting with Big Fish kind of at the top.
And mine would be Beetlejuice and Mars Attacks. Probably my top 2, just because of like Beetlejuice is for me just like that's the film I want to go see. It's just like dark humor. Like, I love that. And then Mars Attacks. It's just, for me, it's just fun to watch. So,
hit us up on Twitter. Agree, disagree. Tell us your favorites. What you think, if we're full of it, which I'm sure we are in some cases. But,
probably.
I think real quick. I know we're running long. I want to get to our Netflix sleepers. Go ahead, sir, with yours.
All right. Well, mine is a film called, at least over here, it is Zombies. That is AAAH. Zombies! ! And it is a film where basically these people are infected somehow with the thing that turns them into zombies, and they don't realize that they're turning into zombies. They're completely conscious. They are talking to each other.
Okay, that's good. Disagree. That's not a zombie. If you mean, don't you have to die to become a zombie?
It's one of those. It's one of those things where this serum is turning people into zombies.
See, those aren't zombies. Like 28 days late. 28 days. Those are not zombies. Okay. Those are rabid freaks.
Well, okay. Basically, they're being turned into people that don't feel pain.
Don't use the Z word.
that can lose arms and they're fine. Like, you know.
Yeah. He's got knocked off. Hit him with an ashtray. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was the second album I ever bought.
Okay.
And the world around them, like they're seeing other people as speeding up, and other people are seeing them as a type thing.
I might write that down. How many H's?
Just one H.
Just one H,
but 3 A's.
Oh, 3 A's.
Yeah, okay. 3 A's and then zombies!
Exclamation point.
And it's fantastically done in that when you're human. And when you're seeing through the eyes of a human, everything is in black and white. When you're seeing through the eyes of the quote-unquote zombies, it's in colour. So the only colour that's in the human thing is the green stuff that is turning them into whatever you want to call this. So it's a fantastic thing. I don't think there's any people in it that are like big names or something.
Yeah.
But
surprise.
Yeah, a very good film, I would say.
Okay.
Right. And yours, sir?
Mine is a film I've had in my queue for weeks and weeks, and I finally watched it, I don't know, maybe a week ago or so. But it's called Bernie, and it's based on a true story. The lead character played by Jack Black, who, part of my hesitation playing it, I'm not the biggest Jack Black fan, apart from his original album of Tenacious D, and apart from a wonderful performance in High Fidelity. I love him in that movie. Yeah. He's just been a little too silly, Billy, cutesy for me, and a lot of his other stuff like School Rock, and that didn't do it for me. But this, he was fantastic in, absolutely fantastic, and deserves any award he gets for it because he plays this mortician, which, as he says in the film, they're called funeral directors now, or something, or assistant directors, as he is, but very gregarious, very well liked by this small town. He comes into this small town and kind of an asexual person, but a lot of people, they discuss, is he a little light in the loafers? Oh, we don't know, but he's highly religious and very caring for people, and this one widow, or her husband dies, she becomes a widow, and he would always look up on these women, look after, check up on them after the funerals and stuff, see how they're doing, bring them flowers or a basket of whatever, soups and stuff. Right. And this one particular widow, played by the old mean lady, this is the old mean lady in town, played by Shirley MacLaine, wonderfully. And it's his mission to win her over, soften her, get to her gooey center, as it is. And, right. So there's this relationship that develops. And then you have another person that's not a favorite of mine in this film, Matthew McConaughey, as the DA, played wonderfully. I mean, this is what Matthew McConaughey needs to be doing. Enough of the romantic comedy bullcrap, whatever. These kind of things, even though I know he's done The Southern Attorney before, I believe A Time to Kill or something like that. I don't know, he was absolutely fantastic. And then there are a couple other bit parts played by actors, but there's many talking heads in the movie, and those are all the real townspeople. Right. Telling, they actually interviewed the townspeople, got their thoughts on the real Bernie, Tita, and the events that were going on, and it's interplayed with the narrative, the filmed narrative with Jack Black, and all this stuff, and it's really well put together. Yeah. And you get this picture of this guy, and that how could he do this horrible thing, which you'll have to see the film. Right. And no, it couldn't be someone like Bernie, and how this town sticks by him, and fantastic film. I love it, and really surprised by it. So I highly recommend it.
Oh, all right. That's the entire point of this feature, I believe.
Let's get some paper shuffling on here. We are actually reading papers.
All right. All right. Well, I don't think we have too much more to say.
No, I think you're probably relieved on that front, folks. All one of you that may still be listening.
All right. All right, well, in that case, I've been Paul.
And I've been Brian.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, folks.